Focus now, fellas.
Yeah, focus.
Is it on?
Yeah.
Are we on live?
Yep.
Is this live?
This is live.
All
okay. Right. So, when you're talking with a customer, okay, so, person that you talk to is typically going to do one of two things, right? They're either going to buy today, or they're going to
not buy.
They're going to not buy today, so they're probably going to buy later. Okay. Now these people can be brought to this sometimes, but not every time. So what we need to be prepared for is, if they're not going to buy today, then what are we going to do?
Depending on depending on the situation, why they're not going to buy today. I mean, some people, they're not ready to buy because of their lease, or because, they don't have enough money.
Yeah, I mean, whatever the case may be, right? Maybe they're doing their research still, their lease isn't up yet, maybe they're too buried in their trade, or they think they're too buried in their trade, or they're waiting for a refi to get done, or they're buying a home, or whatever the case may be. I mean, there's a lot of stuff that can happen that is going to stop a deal, and we can't control it.
Definitely,
right?
yeah.
Okay, so if we only plan for this, we only plan for this guy right here, then what happens to all of these people? Hope and a prayer.
Yeah.
Maybe they're going to come back at some point, right? But the chances of that happening are probably very low unless we manage it. So we need to create a plan for these guys, right? We can call it Plan B, right? So this is Plan A.
Nice.
We want them to buy today, but everybody else goes on Plan B. So of the people that you talk to, how many of those people actually buy today?
I'm going to say give or take 60%?
Good luck with that.
A fifth, give or take.
You're excused from training. You're already gone. So
depending on the month.
I'd say, yeah, 10 to 20.
Okay, so 10 to 25% of the people that we talk to that we just met are going to buy a car today. That doesn't mean they're buying it from you. It just means that they're going to buy a car today. So if that's the case, right, and we're all focused on this actually kind of small piece of opportunity here, what are we doing with all of this other opportunity?
Tossing it in the wind.
You're tossing it in the wind. You're not taking advantage of it at all, right? So if that's the case, we still want to grab these people. Most of these people we're going to get anyway, because we know that the typical buyer does 19 hours of research before they walk into a dealership, right? So when they walk in the dealership, whether they're here or whether they're here, they're probably finishing up their research and they're narrowing it down, and we're probably going to buy a car within the next, 7 to 10 days, unless it is a situation where, they're waiting for their home refi to get done in 30 days or whatever the case is, but it's still the foreseeable future. So if you've done this much work, typical buyer is going to visit 1.4 dealers before they buy a car, which means that if you're the first dealer they went to, they've pretty well already decided to buy a car from you, right? So really all we have to do is just kind of stay out of the way, don't offend anybody, be nice and know our product, and then they don't have to go to that other 0.4 dealers to go buy the car that they're going to buy anyway, right? That all makes sense, right? So this is your setup, right? This is the baseline of what we're going to talk about today as far as the training goes. So if we know 10 to 25% of the people are going to buy right now, we already have a plan for that, right? We've already had hours and hours and hours of training on how to handle people once they get here, right? But what about these other people? This is a totally undiscovered country for most salespeople, because the only plan that they have for these people is try to make them these people, right? because there's no future plans. So if somebody comes in and says, hey, I'm just looking, I'm not buying today, whatever that case is, when you go out and say hi to somebody, how long do you think it takes you to decide if that person's actually going to buy a car today or not?
For the first couple minutes.
Takes 5 seconds.
Oh.
5 seconds to determine whether they're going to buy today or not?
Yes. When you go out, you shake somebody's hand, you start talking to them, and typically within that first few seconds, those defenses go up. I'm not buying today, I'm just looking, blah, 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 fill in the blank here. Within 5 seconds, you have some kind of an impression of if this person is going to buy today or if they're not going to buy today. If they are not going to buy today, then you are focusing most of your efforts on getting them to buy today, right? Which is kind of a dual-edged sword. It can make you appear pushy and like you don't care what they want or what they need, but if you do this properly, then you're setting up for a future contact kind of the whole time, right? So, if within that first 5 seconds you decide, okay, this person's not going to buy a car today, what's my plan for this person? Go ahead.
Make an appointment.
Not right there. I mean, they're there to accomplish
well, yeah.
something.
Well, that's. I was thinking like if they were going to buy in general today.
Yeah. That's your end game.
Yeah.
So we need to find out what it is that they're there to accomplish, right? Do they want to see a specific car? Chances are, and that's why we ask what websites have you visited as part of the discovery phase, is if they have been to your website, they know what car they want and they know that you have it, right? If they know that you don't have that car, then they're probably prepared to either order it or see if we can dealer trade for it, right? Either way, they're looking for information. So we need to find out what information they are looking for, okay? And then we're going to get them as much of that information. We're going to set up a future contact before they leave, right? So we do our discovery phase, we find out what information they're looking for, we set up our process and we build the chain, we tell them, okay, this is what we're going to do next, A, B, C, D, right? Does that sound good? Yes, it does. Perfect. Then you go through your process and you're showing them the car and they drive the car, they love the car, everything's great, you've paired their phone, you showed them App Connect, you show them how all of the features of the car work, and then they say, okay, great, we're going to go keep doing research. And you go, okay, hold on. Now, I told you when we first started that before you go, we're going to get you the actual numbers and what it would take to buy that car so that when the time comes to make that decision, you have all the information you need to actually make the decision. Oh, yeah, that's true. Okay, and then you come on inside, we show them some numbers. We're still trying to sell them a car today, but if they're not going to buy a car today, then we're going to set up a future contact. Right? So that's going to be one of two things. What is it?
Phone number.
Make an appointment.
We're either going to make an appointment or what?
Get their contact information.
We already have that.
Okay.
We've already shown them the information. So we're either going to make an appointment or we're going to set up a phone call. Okay, so before they leave, we already have a plan for the future. Instead of, okay, well, you're going to call me next week, which never happens, or I'm going to call you in a couple days, which never happens, whatever the case may be, right? One of my best friends from high school, I talked to him about a month ago. We caught up, we haven't talked in 4 or 5 years. Yeah, man, you know what, we should get together, have a barbecue, I'll bring the family up, we'll hang out, we'll drink a few beers. Yeah, that sounds great. Yeah, when do you want to do it? I don't know, a couple weeks. That's been a month. He hasn't called me. I haven't called him. This is one of my best friends. So to think that that's going to go any better with somebody that you just met by not nailing something down, that's kind of silly, isn't it?
Yeah.
It's pretty silly. So when we've already given them all the information that we can, they've got numbers on the car, they know what it's going to take, right? Okay, great. So when can you bring your spouse back? I don't know, I have to talk to her. Okay, when can I expect to hear from you? I don't know, probably next week sometime. Okay, great, thanks for playing. And then they leave, and what happens?
They never call.
They never call. And when you call them, what happens?
They never answer.
They never answer.
Yeah.
Right? So you're already setting yourself up to fail because we don't have a plan B. Right? So our plan B is before they exit, we're going to do one of two things. We're either going to make an appointment for them to come back right there on the spot, or we're going to make an appointment to have a phone call. And if they say, don't call me, I'll call you, okay, great. When can I expect a phone call by? Next week. Perfect. Wednesday? Yeah, Wednesday's about right. Okay, so if I don't hear from you by Wednesday at 5 o'clock, then I'll call you Thursday morning.
Sounds
Or
fair.
if I don't hear from you by Wednesday at 5, then I'll call you around 6.
It's like trying not to be as vague.
Right. You're setting expectations. Right? Now here's the difference. If you take a phone call and you're talking to somebody and they say, yeah, I'm going to come in Saturday at noon, all we've done is talked on the phone. So if I don't show up, how much of a big deal is it to me? It's not a big deal at all.
Mm-hmm.
But now, we've met face to face, you've made an investment in me, you've shown me a couple cars, you've answered my questions, you showed me what it would take to buy it. Now if we set an appointment and I can't make it, what do you think's going to happen?
I'm going to feel...
Probably going to feel a little guilty.
Yeah.
You know, maybe I should call Roger. I know he's busy. He does a good job. I really appreciate what he did for me, but I can't make it anymore, so I'm going to call him, or at least answer your phone call. Okay, so anyway, so we've set up a phone call. Now there's expectations. There's investment on either side, you know, as far as time goes.
Mm-hmm.
So they're less likely to not answer your phone call and not show up for an appointment. Right, so if we make that phone call and we don't get an appointment, okay, great, when are we going to talk again? Right, so you're just going to keep setting up the next contact until one of two things, either they buy or they don't buy. Right, but if we don't continue to set up that contact, then we're just going to go into oblivion, right? And you lose deals left and right because there's no communication there. Mm-hmm. Right, so if we make an appointment, or when we make an appointment, what are we going to do? We're going to get the car ready, right? So the car's ready, it's cleaned up, it's out front,
Gassed up.
it's got gas in it, okay, and you know what that transaction's going to look like when they get there.
Another thing is, what Perry would tell me is, make sure you go test drive that car beforehand, so then you won't be, you know, surprised of any other little things.
Exactly.
So, I think that's a really good point that he brings up.
And that comes back to making sure the car's ready.